I worked the night shift at a luxury hotel where no one ever learned my name. I was trained to smile, stay silent, and disappear behind marble floors and crystal lights. Then one night, the most powerful man in the building stopped, looked straight at me, and asked a question that cracked my world open. Loving him could cost me my job, my dignity, and everything I had worked to survive. But walking away might cost me something even deeper. The moment I chose myself, everything changed. I used to believe that invisibility was a kind of safety. When no one really sees you, no one expects anything from you. No one questions your place. No one hurts you on purpose. That's what I told myself every night at the front desk of Harbor Lights Hotel, watching the polished marble floors reflect chandeliers I would never touch. My name is Emma Brooks. I was 23, working the night shift in Charleston, South Carolina, a city built on beauty, money, and quiet hierarchies everyone pretended didn't exist. At 11:47 p.m., the lobby clock ticked louder than usual. My shoulders ached from hours of sitting straight, smiling politely, typing reservations with mechanical precision. I'd been doing this for 5 years, ever since I left a small town in rural Iowa, with one suitcase and the stubborn belief that hard work alone could change a life. The hotel smelled faintly of lavender and polished wood, crystal lights, Italian marble. Everything whispered luxury. None of it belonged to me. I adjusted my white uniform blouse, tucked a loose strand of brown hair behind my ear, and focused on the screen. My grandmother, Margaret Brooks, had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 5. She used to say, "If you don't make noise, you don't attract trouble." So I learned to be quiet, efficient, invisible. Then I heard footsteps, slow, confident, unhurried. I looked up, and something inside my chest tightened in a way I didn't recognize. He crossed the lobby like the space had been designed for him alone. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a navy suit that fit like it was custom-made. His dark hair was neatly styled, his jaw sharp, his expression calm but alert, like someone constantly assessing the world. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Deep brown, focused, the kind of eyes that didn't skim past people. "Good evening," he said. His voice was low, steady. It didn't rush. "Lucas Wright, I have a reservation." My fingers hesitated above the keyboard. Everyone knew that name. Lucas Wright was one of the youngest investment CEOs in the country. Business magazines loved calling him ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. He built companies and dismantled them with the same calm expression he wore now. I forced myself back into professional mode. "Good evening, Mr. Wright. One moment, please." My hands trembled slightly as I typed. "Presidential suite, 12th floor." When I handed him the key card, our fingers brushed. The contact lasted less than a second, but it felt like static traveling straight through me. He didn't move. Instead, he looked at me. Really looked. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. The question caught me off guard. Guests rarely asked about me. "5 years, sir." "All night shifts?" "Most of them." He tilted his head slightly like he was processing data. "That must get lonely." The words weren't pitying. They weren't curious for the sake of conversation. They were accurate. "Sometimes," I admitted quietly, surprising myself. For a long moment, we just stood there, the space between us charged with something I didn't know how to name. My heart beat faster, heat rising to my cheeks. "Good night, Mr. Wright," I said, lowering my gaze, trying to reassemble my composure. A faint smile touched his lips. "Good night, Emma." The way he said my name, slow, intentional, made my stomach flip. When he finally walked toward the elevators, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for minutes. What was that? The next morning, near the end of my shift, exhaustion finally caught up with me. I was carrying a stack of documents across the lobby when my foot caught on nothing at all. Papers flew everywhere. "Damn it," I muttered, kneeling to gather them. "Let me help." I looked up. Lucas Wright was crouched beside me, already collecting papers with quick, efficient movements. He wore jeans and a gray shirt now, but the same quiet authority clung to him. "You don't have to," I said quickly. "I want to." Our hands reached for the same page. This time he didn't let go right away. "You're always rushing," he said softly. "I have a lot to do." So does everyone, he replied. But not everyone carries it the way you do. I froze. You don't know me, I said. Not yet. He handed me the neatly stacked papers and offered his hand to help me up. I hesitated, then took it. His grip was warm, steady. When he pulled me up, we ended up far closer than was appropriate. I could smell his cologne. Clean, subtle, grounding. Thank you, I whispered. The pleasure was mine, he said. Before leaving, he paused and looked back at me. You have a look that doesn't belong in a place like this, he said, like you're meant for more than standing behind a counter. Then he was gone. In the days that followed, he kept appearing, asking for restaurant recommendations he could have found online, questions about the city, small things that felt intentional. My heart reacted before my mind could catch up. I knew better. I knew men like him didn't cross worlds without consequences. And yet, every time his voice said my name, something inside me stirred awake. By the fifth night, he leaned casually against the marble desk and said, I need a recommendation. Somewhere special. I almost laughed at the irony. As I wrote down the address of a small, honest place by the water, a dangerous thought crept in. What if this wasn't just curiosity? What if being seen, truly seen, was the most dangerous thing of all? And if someone like Lucas Wright was really looking at me, was I strong enough to stay invisible? Or would saying yes change everything? Would you say yes even if your whole world warned you not to? I told myself it was nothing. A few polite conversations, a guest with time to spare, a coincidence that felt heavier than it should. But nothing stays small when it's fed by attention. Lucas Wright started coming down to the lobby every evening, always with a reason that sounded reasonable enough. A question about meeting rooms, a request for local recommendations, a casual comment about the weather that somehow turned into a conversation about life. And every time, he looked at me the same way, like I wasn't furniture, like I wasn't invisible. The first time he defended me, I didn't understand what was happening until it was already over. It was a Monday night, the kind that drags on forever. The hotel manager, Mr. Reynolds, was in one of his moods, pacing behind the front desk with irritation sharp enough to cut skin. A double booking had appeared in the system for the presidential suite, and he needed someone to blame. Emma, he snapped loud enough for guests to hear. My office, now. I felt every eye in the lobby turn toward me. I stood up, my heart racing, and followed him inside. He shoved the screen toward me. Explain this. I scanned the reservation details, my mind moving fast despite the pressure. The first booking was automated, I said carefully. The second was manual, entered under a different login. I didn't create it. So, you didn't notice the error when you took over the shift? There's no real-time alert when bookings are entered. I mean different sessions, I replied. It's a known software issue. I've reported it before. His jaw tightened. Always an excuse. Excuse me. The voice came from the doorway. We both turned. Lucas stood there, hands in his pockets, his expression calm but unreadable. The air in the room shifted. I couldn't help overhearing, he said, and it sounds like you're blaming an employee for a system failure. Mr. Reynolds straightened immediately. Mr. Wright, this is an internal matter. Lucas walked closer to the screen, scanning it with a focus that made it obvious he understood systems far better than most people in the room. She's correct, he said evenly. 2 entries, different logins, no synchronization. That's not human error. That's bad software. The silence that followed was heavy. And publicly humiliating an employee for that, Lucas continued, says more about management than performance. Mr. Reynolds opened his mouth, then closed it. Lucas turned to me, his voice softening just enough. Are you okay? I nodded, though my hands were shaking. When we stepped back into the lobby, he touched my arm lightly. You handled that well. I shouldn't need defending, I said, embarrassed. People shouldn't need defending, he replied, but sometimes they do. That was the moment I knew this wasn't harmless anymore. The next night he asked me to have dinner with him. Not as a demand, not as an expectation. As 2 people talking, he said. I said yes before my fear could catch up. Dinner stretched into hours. Conversation flowed in a way I had never experienced. He listened, really listened. When I talked about my grandmother, my small-town childhood, the way I'd learned to survive instead of dream, he didn't interrupt or romanticize it. "You're braver than you think," he said at one point. "Most people never leave what's familiar." I almost believed him, but rumors don't need facts. They just need proximity. By the end of the week, I felt it in the way coworkers looked at me, in the way conversations stopped when I walked into a room, in the way Mr. Reynolds watched me like he was waiting for proof of something. It all exploded on Friday. A rude guest was shouting at the desk, accusing me of incompetence because his room upgrade wasn't immediate. His voice rose, insults spilling freely. "I pay too much money to be treated by someone like you," he snapped. "You probably only have this job because—" Finish that sentence. Lucas appeared beside me, placing himself between the man and the desk. The guest recoiled slightly when he recognized him. "You will apologize," Lucas said calmly. "To her, not to me." The apology was mumbled, forced, empty, but the damage was done. Mr. Reynolds called me into his office immediately after. "I warned you," he said flatly. "Your involvement with a VIP guest is becoming a liability. What I do off the clock doesn't matter when perception is involved," he interrupted. "From now on, you are not to interact with Mr. Wright beyond basic professional necessity. If this continues, you will be terminated." I left his office with my chest tight and my vision blurred. Lucas found me in the staff restroom, ignoring every unspoken rule. "What did he say?" he asked. I told him. His face darkened. "I'll handle this." "No," I said quickly, gripping his sleeve. "If you step in, it only proves their point." He looked at me, torn between anger and restraint. "This is hurting you," he said. "So is staying quiet," I replied. "But I can't lose my job. This is my life." The words hung between us. "I need time," I said finally. "I need space to figure out who I am when all of this noise is stripped away." He nodded slowly, pain flashing in his eyes. "I'll respect that." That night, I packed a small bag and booked a ticket back to Iowa. Not to run from him, but to remember myself. As I sat alone on my bed, staring at my phone filled with unanswered messages, one question echoed in my mind. If choosing yourself means walking away from someone who sees you, would you still do it? Yes or no? I didn't realize how tired I was until I went back to Iowa. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the deeper kind. The kind that settles into your bones when you've been holding yourself small for too long. My grandmother's house hadn't changed. Same creaky wooden steps, same chipped mug by the sink, same quiet mornings where the world felt honest again. Margaret Brooks watched me carefully those first few days, never pushing, never asking too much. One evening, as we shelled peas at the kitchen table, she finally said, "You look like someone who ran very far just to find herself standing still." I smiled, a little sad. "I think I forgot who I was while trying to become someone else." She nodded. "Then maybe this pause is doing its job." I stayed longer than I planned. Weeks turned into months. I enrolled in night classes, something I'd always postponed because survival felt more urgent than growth. Hospitality management, business fundamentals. For the first time, I wasn't just working to endure, I was building. Lucas respected my silence. No grand gestures, no dramatic pleas. Just one message every few weeks. Simple, honest. "I'm here when you're ready." That patience mattered more than any promise. When I returned to Charleston, it wasn't because I missed the hotel lobby or the marble floors. It was because I no longer felt like I had to ask permission to exist. Harbor lights looked the same, but I didn't. I walked in wearing confidence I hadn't known before. My shoulders squared, my voice steady. Mr. Reynolds barely looked up until I handed him my resignation. "Effective immediately," I said calmly. "Thank you for the opportunity." He stared, stunned. "You're quitting?" "I'm choosing," I replied. I left before he could respond. 2 weeks later, I started a new role at a boutique waterfront hotel. Smaller, warmer, a place where my ideas were welcomed, not silenced. Where my name wasn't whispered with suspicion. Lucas didn't show up right away, and that was okay. Then one evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the harbor in gold, I saw him standing near the entrance. Not in a suit, not as a CEO, just Lucas. "I wasn't sure if I should come," he said quietly. "I'm glad you did," I replied. We walked along the pier, words flowing easily now that there was no fear underneath them. He didn't apologize for the world. He didn't try to fix the past. Instead, he said something simple. "I had to learn that seeing someone means letting them grow, even if it scares you." I stopped walking and looked at him, and I had to learn that being loved shouldn't cost you your voice. We stood there, the ocean breathing softly beside us, and for the first time, there was no imbalance, no hierarchy, just two people choosing each other freely. Months later, at a small beach ceremony on Folly Beach, I stood barefoot in the sand, the wind lifting my hair, laughter mingling with the sound of waves. My grandmother sat in the front row, smiling with quiet pride. Lucas squeezed my hand, not possessive, not protective, present. I didn't become his shadow. He didn't become my escape. We became partners. Looking back, I realized the story was never about a billionaire or a hotel clerk. It was about a woman learning that love doesn't arrive to save you. It arrives when you've already saved yourself. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't holding on. It's letting go long enough to grow. As this story ends, I wonder what stayed with you the most. Was it the choice to walk away, the courage to return stronger, or the quiet kind of love that waits instead of demanding? If this story touched you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And tell me, where are you watching from today? If you felt something along the way, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more stories like this, and share it with someone who might need to hear it tonight. Sometimes a story arrives exactly when we're ready to be seen.